Hey everybody, Ty Hicks here. Very excited to be speaking with you. It's been a while since I've been live in the group, and I wanted to just touch base with you guys because tomorrow's New Year's Eve, and this is a time of year where I know a lot of people are doing some reflecting on where they currently stand with their mental health. And a lot of people are looking for, to some answers. Where can they really take things in 2020? Is it really going to be possible for them to make serious gains in their depression, in their anxiety? And would it even be possible to make 2020 their first depression and anxiety free year in a very long period of time? For many of you guys, I know you've been challenged since your early childhood, which is when things began for me as well. So there are 5 major things that I want to go through with you all today that have really uncovered themselves as very key lessons in the past year specifically, that have demonstrated themselves to be self-evident as we've been working with people to really naturally overcome depression and anxiety. Because if you're reflecting right now on the opportunity to potentially be depression and anxiety free in 2020, there are specifically these 5 things that I think you really need to understand and come to grips with. So if it helps you, maybe get a piece of paper out, jot these down, but I really think you need to let these sink in for you. Because unfortunately, I don't think you're going to have much of a chance to really make the goals happen that you want unless you can really, take these for what they're worth. So the first one that I really want to revisit, and this is not necessarily new if you've heard me speak on this issue before, but bears repeating because so many people forget it, and it's very critical, is number one, obviously depression and anxiety are very real experiences. They're very real, right? I struggle with suicidal depression myself. The fact that you're dealing with what you're dealing with is obviously not to be taken lightly by a long shot. You're struggling with something where every day you're waking up, you're unsure why you're feeling how you're feeling that way. You feel stuck in it. You feel like there's not a way out. You're feeling like you've tried so many different things. You've probably gotten to a spot where you're losing a sense of hope that things could actually improve. And to make it worse, for most of you, I know that your friends and family don't very often understand or appreciate that what you're going through is in fact a very real, painful experience that you're not consciously choosing. So that's the first thing that I want us to be 110% clear on, is yes, what you're dealing with is a very real experience. But I also need to be very clear with number 2. The second big thing that I think you've really got to understand if you truly want to get over this, and that is that depression and anxiety are not lifetime sentences. At least they don't have to be. They end up being lifetime sentences for a great many people, but I want to share with you that that does not have to be the case for you. And you might be thinking what a lot of people think when I say this to them. Well, Ty, you don't understand. I went through this and I went through that, and I know many of you have even suffered some very serious abuse, physical, sexual, mental, gone through some very, very serious life challenges. Some clients we've worked with have witnessed some very serious physical atrocities happening, physical violence happening to people. So I know you've probably dealt with some traumatic experiences. I know that your childhood was probably not too pretty. I know all those things are probably true. But what I want you to understand is, while I completely and can appreciate what you're going through is individually your own experience, I want you to understand that so many people before you have gone through more than likely something that is as serious or probably worse. And they have, by implementing the right approach and by understanding the right insights, have become depression and anxiety free. There's not a determining factor on whether you can recover that is primarily based on your background or your genetics or your hereditary lineage. Those are not the biggest important factors. They play a part, don't get me wrong, but in my experience in actually helping people create a real solution for their depression and anxiety, those are not the most determining factors. So I want you to understand the second big point here, that depression and anxiety do not have to be a lifetime sentence for you. And even if you're dealing with something in addition to that, post-traumatic stress disorder, even the complex version, OCD, any of those types of challenges, those also too can be overcome. They truly can. And I know that's something that's tough for you to grasp right now, and I really appreciate that. I do. And I don't necessarily expect you to just take me on my word for that. I wouldn't expect that at all. But I want you to at least entertain that. And the question I want to ask you is this. If you are not willing to entertain the idea that you can actually overcome your anxiety or your depression, what real chance do you have of being able to make serious gains? Because after doing this for many years, what I can tell you is this: people who are not willing to temporarily suspend disbelief and entertain the idea that they actually could tangibly make real progress or overcome their challenge, if you're not willing to do that, you have no chance of actually making significant improvements. And what I have seen has been an undeniable pattern over the years. And this brings me to point number 3. This is the third major thing I think you've got to become acquainted with if you really want to be depression and anxiety free in 2020. And that is that after you've struggled for a very long period of time, you will conclude wrongfully that things cannot change. After you've been struggling for months, years, or decades, after you've tried all of the common stuff, after you've gone through counseling, you've gone through therapy, you've tried the medication, you've tried self-help, you've read all of the online blogs, you've done the meditation and the breathing exercises, you've tried all the coping work, you've tried journaling, you've tried all of these things, and you're still struggling, the subconscious conclusion that you will arrive at is that you are broken, that you have something that's going to be with you for the rest of your life. And what I want to share with you is that that is the most dangerous place you can possibly get in. Because the reason you're not getting the actual gains that you need to in terms of improving your mental health is simply because you have not applied the right approach. And our society has not disseminated what the proven approach is. It's not widely known. The most common methods that people are recommended to go to are the most ineffectual methods, and they are only methods that help you cope and get through the days and essentially help you become convinced of the idea that you're going to have this for the rest of your life and that the best that you can do is just minimize the pain. And I'm here to tell you that that is not a reality you have to settle for. It certainly is a choice that you have, but it is not the only choice that you have. There is a path to actually overcome this, but you're going to have to do things very differently. And the first thing you're going to have to do differently is entertain the idea that you actually can overcome this, because people no smarter than you have done it. People no more capable than you have done it. People with issues as serious as yours and probably more serious have also done it. So if you often use the simplistic metaphor, right? But if you're trying to go west, if you're trying to travel west, and you don't have a compass, and you just start running as hard and as fast as you possibly can, and you don't end up at the destination that you want to, you might wrongfully conclude that your attempts are futile. And that's not the case. You've just been running in the wrong direction. And it doesn't matter how long or fast or hard or consistently you run in that wrong direction, it's still the wrong direction. So a shift in approach, a shift in strategy, a shift in process is very often all it really needs, because people often even ridicule what I claim that depression and anxiety can be overcome in a couple of months, but they don't appreciate the fact that they've been going the wrong direction for maybe their whole life. And as soon as you actually know where to look for the source, things can change very radically. So that brings us to point number 4, okay? And this is really time for me to have a heart-to-heart with you, because, my friend, I want you to understand, I don't take this lightly by any means. I was once at a point in my life where I was contemplating ending my life. I work with people every day who are in the depths of despair, who don't think that they have an opportunity to live a life of passion or impact or purpose anymore. And they're contemplating giving up, either just in terms of resigning themselves to, accepting this is how their life is going to be, or contemplating checking out of life. So I take this with the utmost seriousness and sincerity. And that's why I have to share with you point number 4. And point number 4, if you really want to be depression and anxiety free in 2020, you need to understand that sitting and waiting and hoping that things get better on their own, or doing the same things you've always done, is not going to actually solve your problem, okay? If you've done what you've previously done and you've gotten a particular result from it, let's say you've tried the therapy or counseling or medication routes, which almost inevitably end with you feeling short-term progress but never a long-term solution. if you've tried those routes or any others, you've gotten invariably a certain result from those efforts. But as you know, any result in life is the consequence of a particular action. And just using that metaphor I just gave you a second ago, a shift in direction, a shift in process, a shift in new action being taken is what's required in order to get a new result. And what I know is that when people have tried and they've gotten to this point where they feel like nothing can change, they end up spending their time simply engaging in the message boards on Facebook support groups, right? They end up just exchanging sympathy with each other. They end up, just essentially feeling bad for themselves. And it's not to say that, it's not to, delegitimize the pain that you're in, because I'm sure you are in pain. But my question is, what's your real goal? Do you want to change this? Do you want to shift it? And if that is the case, because I think you would not be here listening to this video right now if that weren't the case at the deepest level. If your real goal is to actually shift this, overcome it, and reclaim your life, you've got to understand waiting for things to get better or doing what you've always done is not going to actually change it. You've got to do something different. Okay? And that brings me to my fifth and final point. And that is that no change, particularly in regards to your mental health, can ever happen without taking back your responsibility and power to actually make this change happen. I'm not saying that it's as easy as flipping a light switch, far from it, without a doubt. Okay? It does take time, right? And even with the most effective method, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It takes work, it takes diligence, it takes consistency. But the most important thing to understand is that it can be done. But it can only be done with the very first step. And I will share with you, over the years, having worked with people who have gotten incredible results in this area, as well as unfortunately seeing a lot of people who have decided to not take the appropriate action and therefore have not gotten the right results. I will share with you that the absolute most important first step is making a real decision. And that brings us to the time of year that we're in right now. You might have been contemplating some New Year's resolutions. And what does it mean to make a resolution? Well, to make a resolution means, a real resolution means to cut off from any other possibility. A real resolution means that it's decided, that it's done, that you may not know how it's going to be done. You may not necessarily have access to all of the tools right now. You may need to get some extra guidance. You may need to do something different that you don't even yet know what that may be. But to first arrive at the conclusion and the decision that you're no longer going to settle for what you've previously gotten. And if you're like most people in the world right now, at this time of year, you've probably been contemplating on the pain you've been experiencing so far. I don't know how long you've been struggling. It may be a couple months, maybe a couple years, maybe a couple decades. But I'm sure it's been too long. And I'm sure you're probably getting to a spot where you're really fed up with that and you're really looking to make a change. So if you are in a position where you want to make a real resolution, I want to extend to you an invitation. Tomorrow on New Year's Eve, we're going to be opening up early enrollment for our January class of clients. These are people who are going to be committed to being depression and anxiety free by mid-March. These are going to be people who will enter into our process. They will be given our framework. They'll be given our direct one-on-one guidance in order to make sure that they actually get that end result. So if you're in a position where you're tired of coping, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you're really in a spot where you want to make a real resolution, a real decision to actually beat this, then it's time to step up. It's time to do something different. It's time to take that first step forward. So I invite you to do that. Go ahead and just comment below, "I'm resolved." Okay? Just go ahead and comment below, "I'm resolved." If I'm describing you, if I'm talking to you right now, and you truly do want 2020 to be your anxiety and depression-free year, myself or a team member will reach out to you. We'll have just a couple quick questions for you. We'll set up just a very quick 5-minute call. We'll see if, in fact, you do meet our qualifications and if the timing is really right, and if we could be confident that we could help you produce that result by mid-March. So go ahead and comment right now, "I'm resolved" below. Take the very first step to making 2020 your depression and anxiety-free year. Excited to talk to you soon. Take care.